All right.
Okay. Don't I look very wide to you? I mean, I know I'm wide, but I look wider. Oh, we're recording.
We're recording.
Great.
Go ahead, Miss Heather.
Oh, the cue was supposed to be we're live.
We're live.
Hi, everybody. We're live. And as usual, Kim messed me up. Welcome, finally, to Coffee with Kim. We are 33 minutes late, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. A little bit of technical difficulties, but as you know, the harder it is to get on, the better the show is going to be, and I promise you this show is going to be wonderful. Our topic is very, very heavy, so unfortunately I won't really be able to crack any jokes, but I will say this. Our guest has a very special place in my heart. I saw her almost a year ago at my church, and when she spoke, I just knew instantly. It was like God touched my heart and said, few has to work with her. And as ironic as it is, you guys know I live in Wesley Chapel, Florida, close to Tampa, and I heard her speak in Wesley Chapel, but she lives, get this, in Wisconsin. So right there, that was like a number one confirmation. But then when I heard what she's doing and what she's dedicated her life to, there was no question that few, Kim, and of course me, had to get involved. So with no further ado, I want to introduce you to this absolutely cutie patootie, Susan Russo. And I'm going to let Kim read you her bio and let you know a little bit about her organization. But let's welcome Susan. I said Susan, right? I just want to make sure I didn't say the wrong thing. Sorry. I don't know why, but in my head, I'm like, did I say Susan or season? So
because Russo, I think you just mixed up the ooh. But
yeah, I did say Susan, didn't I?
I think you did, but Susan, okay. Thank you for being on the show. You're such a good sport working through our technical difficulties today.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Heather wasn't lying when she said the more difficulties we have with a show, we know the more important it is that this show airs and that people hear your story. So we cannot wait to get to your story. But before we do, I want everyone to know that Susan is the co-founder and program director of an anti-human trafficking organization called I Heart World. That's EYEHEART World. I love that. It just makes me think of how God's eye is on the world, his heart is with the world, and I don't know if that's where the name came from, but I love it. I Heart World works to combat sex trafficking through aftercare prevention and awareness. And you guys, we are learning a lot about sex trafficking, but we're really not educated on it the way that we need to be. So we're so grateful, Susan, that you're willing to tell your story, inspire our viewers, but also educate them. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So tell us, how in the world did you end up co-founding this organization and educating women on this topic? We can't wait to hear your story.
Yes, so excited.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. So my husband and I live in Wesley Chapel, Heather, where you live, and we were on staff at his dad's church. And my husband was the music pastor at one of the satellite campuses, and I was the youth pastor at the satellite campus. And about 9 years ago, we were at a conference. It was actually a women's conference. I was doing their girls track, and the main speaker for the women's track was talking on human trafficking. And my husband and I were he was there helping with the table and all that. And my husband and I were just taken back by what she was sharing about human trafficking. And so we left the conference and we just felt like, man, there's more that we need to do. We don't know what that looks like, but God, show us. And so over the next few weeks, we just felt like God kept saying, use what's in your hands, use what's in your hands. And we knew that, my husband and I had the platform, I guess you could say, to really rally together youth and young adults, and even the church, to say, hey, we're going to put on this local awareness event at the church. And then we also knew, I felt like the thing that God was like, okay, this is what you have in your hands, is my mom and I are really crafty. I love all that. And so just felt like, you know what, we need to host an awareness event, invite the community. In addition we need to go and create 30 handbags. I decided 30, but 30 handbags, put a random orange rose on every handbag, and sell them at this awareness event that we're putting on. It was the end of February, and so we kind of thought it'd just be like a one-time thing we do, our way to give back. So we put on the awareness event. We had probably 350 people come out. We sold all 30 handbags.
Wow.
Got orders for more. That night we had a nonprofit that was getting a home up and going in Central Florida. We had them be the featured charity, and so all the money raised we gave to them.
Wow.
And so after that, we just felt like, oh wow, okay, maybe there's more to this. We got invited to come and continue to speak, and we sold more handbags throughout that whole year. And so over the next, probably 2 years, we just did that on the side. We take speaking engagements and just really say, hey, this is what we're learning, but we encourage everybody else to learn about what sex trafficking looks like. And that was kind of more of our shtick, more than overseas, because we were just taken back that it was happening in the United States, in Florida, and in Wesley Chapel. And so then we filed for our nonprofit status and got that. And we just volunteered on the side. My husband, the last 2 years before we came on staff, my husband worked and I just volunteered and kept iHeartWorld going and building it. And then 3 years ago is when we officially, got our headquarters. Ryan and I came on staff, then we kept building it. And now we have staff in Alabama and in Wisconsin. We have a Rose home in Green Bay that serves survivors ages 18 to 25. And we have 7 beds there. And then we have a Rose Center in Mobile, Alabama, that works to help girls that are just getting out of life and keep that bridge from life to a home.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing. Tell us more about that Rose Home. What kinds of services do you provide the girls and the women that stay, and how many does your home accommodate?
Yeah, so the program is 12 to 14 months. Can you ladies hear me okay still?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can hear you. I'm just getting an echo, Susan. I don't know are you in a bigger room now, or is it just?
I'm not.
Okay, just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. So we serve 7 girls. We have 7 beds, and the program is 12 to 14 months. We have 4 phases in the 12 to 14 month program, which means when a young girl completes phase 1, she can reapply for phase 2. Some of the girls find, they don't want to necessarily stay the full 12 to 14 months. But, if they want the full program, it is 12 to 14 months, but there's 4 phases within that. Throughout the day, the girls have trauma-informed therapy, counseling, life skills, workforce preparation. We help them get their GED, everything. We have some community partners where the girls go 3 times a week to work out. So that's kind of just a quick rundown on what that looks like.
Wow, that's totally amazing. So who tells you about the girls or brings the girls to you, or is that also part of what you do? Are you out there on the streets? Are you working in partnership with other organizations?
Yeah, great question. So I would say most of our referrals come from law enforcement, and then also come from other agencies. So we work with other agencies in the state, but also out of state that'll contact us and say, hey, we have a girl, do you guys have a bed? And then our outreach coordinators them the intake form. They fill it out, and then we just decide if she's a good fit for the home, if we have the space. But we really work with law enforcement, DCI, which is like your state FBI, to get a lot of referrals. So from law enforcement, our referrals either come from operations where they initially, say, okay, this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to act like we're buyers, or we're going to act like we're the girls. They get online, reply to these ads to catch the traffickers, to catch the girls. And so that's one way. Another way that comes through law enforcement is sometimes we'll just get a cold call that says, hey, we have 2 girls at the station or at the sheriff's department. Can somebody from iHeartWorld come? And we have a lady on staff that coordinates that initial connection with law enforcement. And then we have about 10 women that are they're either a social worker, a counselor, a therapist. They volunteer their time to be available if we have an immediate call during the day. So our referrals come from other agencies and law enforcement.
Wow. Wow. And now you've been working directly with these girls for over 3 years, you said?
Well, we started, I could clarify that. So we started I Heart World 9 years ago. And then 3 years ago is when we were like, okay, we're getting serious about this. We're going to open a home. We're going to get some more staff on board. And then 16 months ago is when we actually opened the Rose home.
Wow.
So it's been open for 16 months, and we're already looking to expand because we're seeing the need for emergency housing, the need for girls to be able to stay 12 to 14 months, which we currently have. But then we're also needing when the girls graduate, like we just had our first graduate on Sunday night. We just had her graduation party. Being able to also be available or have the space to say, if you want to stay longer, work full time, but you can still live here and be in a supported environment. So it's going really well to the point that we're already trying to strategize how we can meet the need even more.
Wow, I love that. I just love how you guys are right in there meeting the basic needs for shelter and food and clothing and loving them, out of that situation. I have a couple questions about those girls and what they've lived. What do you think, well, two questions. What hurts your heart the most around this whole area? Like, what is your biggest burden and why? And then for the girls that go through your program, what is their biggest challenge that you can see that they face?
Wow, great question. I would say the thing that breaks my heart the most in all of this is the girls not having a support system from the time they were little girls, because of the sexual abuse that they've been involved in, and just realizing in a way they didn't really have a chance from the beginning. And so, sometimes when they come into the home, we go, why do you act that way? Or why do you say that? Or why do you do that? And you go, because they've never really been set up for success. And we're giving them the opportunity to be set up for success. And they truly are grateful for that. Initially they're like, what are these people telling me? I have to do this and do that. But I think that would just makes me the most sad, is just realizing these girls come in and they've not had any support system. So no wonder they were a perfect prime target to be
I was just manipulated. Yeah, don't those statistics make them more vulnerable to sex trafficking?
Right.
Wow.
As I'm listening to you, I'm tearing up because it's so sad. And I mean, I've read tons of statistics since we decided to do the show, and it just sounds, like anybody is at risk, any of our children. It doesn't matter, if your dad's a lawyer or if you're homeless, you're just as much at risk. And what kills me is what you said. They don't know that they're loved. They don't know their true identity in Christ. They don't feel, as awesome as they should, and accepting for who they are. And I myself, and I know all of us have, struggle with who we are. We have flaws. Even before the show, I'm like, I'm bloated. I feel like an Amazon woman. But these poor women, they're preyed on for this. Men look for those insecurities, even through just Instagram messages saying, I don't feel pretty today. And that they're stalked for it. And it breaks my heart when I hear you say, it's like I want to do so much more and I don't even know what to do. But I'm so glad, Susan, that you had this on your heart and you made it a priority. You help these women to know that they're loved, and not just by you, but by God. And that is so important. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And so, Susan, back to my second question there. What do you see are the biggest challenges for the girls? I was talking to a woman who runs a group home for teens in Milwaukee who they are not candidates for traditional foster care. And she said that, they don't know like basic things about how to, one girl didn't know what to do with the money she earned at her real job because her pimp always took all of her money. She literally didn't know how to go to the bank. And she was like 20 years old. Her money was just piling up. She didn't know what to do with it, And so there's all these like life skills, but I can't imagine the internal obstacles they have, just the way that they view themselves or even what's possible for them. So I'm really anxious to hear your answer.
Yeah, so I have two answers for that, if you don't mind. I would say the biggest challenge is the girls knowing how to not only work through the darkness that they've been involved in, but the darkness they feel, but also them learning how to work themselves out of the darkness with Jesus and with the word. And so I think sometimes the girls are so used to living in a life that is so dark and sad and hopeless that sometimes they can't see straight, they can't see hope, because they just know, okay, I'm feeling this. What is the thing that's going to numb me right now? What can I do that's going to take the pain away right now?
Right.
And so I think the biggest challenge, but also the biggest victory has been, the challenge of getting into the girls that you will overcome this darkness. This is not your life forever.
Right.
And then, once they really grasp onto that, the victory is you see a shift that takes place when they go, oh my gosh, I truly can't be free. And I know that if Jesus isn't in the equation, it's impossible. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, is for them knowing you can come out of this. There is a new way of life, but when they do, and they're strong and they're brave and courageous, and their faith is their own. It's really powerful. So I would say that would be one. And then another challenge is just really teaching the girls structure. We get them day planners, how to have time management, just because they come in and, they hustle at night. They're online, turning tricks from 9 at night until 5 in the morning, and then they kind of rest during the day. So just teaching them, like, that might be their normal, but that's not their new normal anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Teaching them, like, here is how, if you want to be leaving the house at 9, you need to be getting your shoes on at 8:55, which means you need to be having your breakfast at 8:30. So just kind of really teaching the girls, how to have structure in a day. And that is challenging, because they don't get that initially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's amazing. I mean, you're really getting right down to the basic life skills and tools and needs that all kids have, but no one taught them that. Or even if they had structure in their younger years, it's gone by the time they've lived in this world, because it's just such a dark and evil world. And oh man, it breaks my heart that these girls were just used and exploited and don't know their value. How do you impart that? Obviously, you said you use, or that, you're showing them the way out is Jesus and the Word. Do you do that through Bible studies, obviously church services? What are all some of the ways that you introduce them to the truth?
Yeah. So we call this, what vehicles do we use to introduce Jesus to the girls? And so we realize, we believe that that Jesus is going to speak through them if they're sitting in a church service, if it's in a Bible study on a Monday night. So we just provide all these vehicles, and then we're just confident that the Holy Spirit will do the rest. So, for example, Sunday mornings they have church. Sunday afternoons they do sermon recap, where they sit around, talk about the message, really digest it, make it their own. Monday night we have a Bible study. We have a volunteer come in. She's a lovely lady, knows so much about the Word. So she teaches them on Monday night. We also have Alpha, which is literally like the beginning basics of what is Christianity. Then the girls have scripture reading in the morning when they do their daily goals and their day planners. And we're actually just getting ready to start a book with the girls called Draw the Circle by Mark Batterson. And it's a 40-day prayer challenge. So yeah, so we really, I mean, we're just, and especially this year, we're creating a lot of vehicles with, that we're putting into the program so that the girls can make it their own. But there's many different ways that they're learning about what their faith looks like.
Wow.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. You're really bringing them up as little children in the Lord, regardless of their ages.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. Heather, did you have any more questions about the things we just talked to her about?
Well, one of the things that I was curious about, because I noticed, like, I went to your website and I noticed you use human trafficking. So is the Rose House specifically for women that were brought into sex trafficking, or do you also, I was reading the top 3 most common were sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and also debt bondage. So is there a specific type that you just stick with, or do you take anybody that's suffered this, or how does that go?
Right. Yeah. So when we first started, we talked about human trafficking, which was those 3 points that you just made. But then we realized we have to narrow in. And so our focus is definitely sex trafficking. Labor trafficking is a big thing, but we realize that's not, our mission. So yes, we only house survivors of sex trafficking. And
Okay.
we've worked with girls as young as 12 and as old as early 30s.
Wow. And I had another question because when I listened to you at the Sisterhood conference, you'd mentioned branding. And the more that sat with me, the more it just irks me so much, because they're literally claiming a life. And every time they have to look at that, it's just awful. Can you kind of explain to our audience what that is? And then also, like, how do you get them to overcome that? Like, every time they see that mark, how does that darkness of what that mark symbolizes become something different to them?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say every other girl that we either case manage that doesn't come into the Rose home, say she has a place to go home to, we still do case manage on the side. And at least every other girl that comes into the home has a brand, a mark, or a tattoo.
Wow.
And that's everything from, marks that their traffickers, cut marks on their arms that match all the girls in their house or their stable, is where, however many girls they're running, the trafficker is running. And he gives them all the same brand. So we've seen, literal cuts that have turned into scars, but they match with all the other girls. Lots of tattoos, lots of, names on necks, names of the traffickers on other body parts. And so, yeah, that's actually been a really beautiful thing to see that. That's something when we work with the girls, we offer that and we'll say, do you want that removed? So we've worked with quite a few girls to have them removed. Yep. That's a longer process. That's usually about 8 to 10 sessions to really get a tattoo completely removed.
Really?
But recently we just had a participant in the Rose home. Her trafficker signed his signature on her hand and then did a heartbeat symbol. And that was his way of showing ownership, that I owned you, with his name.
Mm-hmm.
And she decided, rather than getting it removed, she wanted to get it covered up with the orange rose of I Heart World. And so she got that covered up. And of course, when she showed it all the staff ladies, we were just in a puddle.
Yeah.
That's based off of, the rose comes from Isaiah 35:1, where it talks about in Isaiah 34, the desert was barren and dry and lifeless. And, Isaiah 35:1 really represents, just a land that came back to life, that there were streams in the desert, and that flowers. One version says that the rose blossomed in the desert, blossomed in the desert, bloomed in the desert. I think another version says. And so it's a representation of, and that's why we call it the Rose home, of these girls. They might come from darkness, but man, are they coming back to life, and they're going to be stronger and I believe, be a voice for survivors that only survivors could speak to because they've been there.
That's just so amazing. I know I'm getting some feedback. Are you getting some, Kim?
Yes. How's that? Are we better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Susan, I'm just so moved by all that you're doing for the girls, even right down to having those tattoos and brands removed from their
Amazing.
bodies. We've been talking a lot this last month to women about identity and about how, regardless of your past, you know, it can be a really, really, really painful, horrific past, or it can just be, you know, your standard life past. If you don't let go of who you were and adopt who God says you are, you're not going to be able to fulfill his call on your life. You're not going to be able to fulfill the destiny he has for you because you'll be stuck in identifying yourself in those old ways. And I love that you give them every opportunity to choose a new identity. And like, if I don't know a lot about the topic and I've never met anybody in that life, but in my heart of hearts, I just know that if they knew who they were to God, they'd be okay, you know? And you're seeing that. You're doing it and seeing it, and it just moves me so deeply. I'm thanking you on behalf of those girls and on behalf of God and on behalf of the rest of the church that doesn't know how to help. And, you know, and tell us, how can we help? I mean, what are ways we can support your ministry? How can we encourage your girls? What can we do?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. You know, first and foremost, and I'll be honest, when we first started this, I'd be like, we need people to pray. And it was like, just because, you know, I've been in ministry and that's just like, you know, you need to say that. But I can tell you, ladies, I have never realized the power of prayer since we opened the Rose Home. And
Really?
so, yeah, so just people praying for the organization, for, you know, wisdom and favor so that we can continue to grow, and favor for the girls and protection over the home, you know, because it is a, you know, it's not a light little fluffy issue. We're dealing with girls going into court to testify against their trafficker. We had one girl that testified, and her trafficker is getting 65 years in prison. And so, you know, there's just a lot of prayer for I Heart World, for the Rose Home, for these girls. And, you know, it wouldn't even need to be a thing that we're like, here are the specific prayers. We just need to know there are people praying. And as long as that's something between, you know, individuals and God, we know he's hearing their prayers and we can feel it. And when we've kind of put a, not as much priority on that, we can feel it. We can see the results of not having people praying for the home and for even the center down in Mobile. And then another way that people can get involved is, I would love to send you, Kim, and you, Heather, a link that gives all of that kind of in a nutshell, rather than me explaining every opportunity. We've actually packaged that really well. And I would love if I could just send that link out, and then whoever's interested can click on that and read through the ways that they can get involved. Our communications coordinator just finalized that, and it's really sharp. So
Awesome.
Perfect. We'll put that up.
Helps because women are ready to help, and they just need to know how. So that's awesome. Thank you. I love it. Wow, Susan. And so when you first heard about this issue, like you said, you and your husband heard about it and you just wanted to get involved. What was it that moved you? I mean, I'm assuming this is not your story and it's not a part of your past, but yet God chose you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You know, a lot of people ask me, Susan, were you a survivor? And, you know, it's really interesting, ladies, because I can honestly say I had probably the opposite of a childhood from the girls I work with. And so oftentimes I've asked myself, oh my gosh, God, like, in starting I Heart World, what do I have to offer these girls? Like, my life was really great. I had 2 parents in the home. I was raised in a Christian home. Like, so I would find myself going, I can't offer anything because I can't relate. And, I think the driving thing for me is I feel like, as I would draw closer to God, prior to, 9 years ago, it was like, as I drew closer to him, it was like my heart just expanded. And it was kind of like, I knew that, I Heart World was an extension of my way of building the kingdom. And so to me, yes, I Heart World is about, awareness and prevention and aftercare, but ultimately I think it's just another avenue that we're able to share the hope of Jesus. So not only do we help survivors, but it's also a way of being Jesus to people, being an extension of who he is here on earth. So I think it's just kind of the overflow of my relationship with the Lord is what led me into that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing more of stories similar to yours where God is raising up women who don't have that painful past or that particular experience, but what they do have and what your upbringing gave you is like you were taught how to love, you were raised in a loving home. And so one of the things I've done and still do is teach parenting classes with Love and Logic. And one of our biggest things we learn there is kids do what you do. And the way that we teach our kids is by showing them and not what we tell them, And so what you saw and learned hands-on was how to be a loving parent, how to be a loving mother. And as I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, you're the perfect person for this because those girls need all the love possible. And you might not relate to their experience, but girl, you're qualified to love them.
Amen.
And it's obvious you do, and it's beautiful what you're doing. I would love to see your Rose homes all over the country. Is that your vision?
It really is. Our vision for the next couple years is to expand our current Rose home so we can serve more survivors. So we want to expand here and then do like outreach centers throughout the state of Wisconsin. And then the Rose home would be a bigger home where we refer a lot of girls to Green Bay. But yes, eventually, we would love to be doing this in multiple states.
Yeah, you got to get one here in Wesley Chapel.
Yes. We have some plans coming down the pipeline there too.
Do you? Oh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me know what I can do to help.
Awesome. Will do.
What is the main role of the outreach centers?
Yes, thank you for asking. So the outreach centers are a really great model that we're feeling like could be a main staple in our programming. So with the Rose Home, we have staff on 24/7. So we have somebody on staff, being paid 24/7. Where the Rose Center, you can do different kinds of there's different models for centers, but our model is we're open 3 days a week in Mobile. And it's really a bridge for the girls from the life to getting out of the life. And so the statistics say it takes girls 7 times to get out of the life. So it's a lot like domestic violence, where they're not just going to go, okay, I'm up and out. They go, well, I know that this wasn't the best situation, but at least I belong somewhere. At least I have a place to rest my head. At least I have food. And a lot of times we find, for the most part, most traffickers shoot up their girls with heroin. And so not only do the traffickers manipulate them emotionally, but these girls are coming back for another hit because no girl wants to be dope sick. And so what we're finding with the centers is we're able to build these relationships with these girls to then help bridge them from being in the life of trafficking to a place like the Rose Home. And so that's kind of the model of the outreach center. And there's a laundry room. The girls can come and do their laundry. They can get a meal. There's the traffickers manipulate them. Yeah.
Wow,
That's just
that's
amazing.
so awesome. I bet education is a big focus too of your ministry. Do you go into like churches and educate? What's the main way you educate people not acquainted with this world?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, great question. So we do a lot of awareness, a lot of speaking, so much so that we've actually created like a large speaking team because we get so many inquiries saying, will you come and speak at our church, at our company? That we have a great team that we just say, hey, listen, we have these 8 requests who can, and they go through the training, of course.
Yeah.
But then I would say what we do internally, our staff does a lot of training to like ER staff, nurse practitioners, doctors, hospitals, a lot of that, a lot of those places where those specific professionals would come in contact with a victim.
Right.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that the need was so great. You had to raise up a team. That's awesome.
It's because people are wonderful and they want to hear about it. They just don't know. But we definitely don't have any lashback of people going, don't tell me about that. If anything, we're like, this is wonderful. People want to know and they want to help. So yes, we're really excited about our awareness piece.
Wonderful.
I love that. Yeah. And also, can you just tell us what are some of the warning signs for like just parents to look out for? Because I know that there are some, but I think a lot of times I think parents aren't even aware of how young they grab these kids, where they're starting to really prey on them at like 10, 11, 12 years old.
Sure. So first of all, social media is a huge thing. I mean, I can't stress that enough. So much of the recruiting takes place on social media. So that would be a place to start. If somebody is finding their daughter is dating an older guy, signs like that. But for the most part, I would say parents just need to watch social media and watch relationships better. I will tell you guys, majority of our girls do come from a place where they don't have a lot of accountability. They don't have parents in the picture. And so they're searching for belonging and they're vulnerable. A lot of the girls are in the foster care system, are runaways. And so they're just needing their immediate needs met. And so it's easy for these traffickers to lure the girls. And there's a statistic that says within 48 hours of a runaway on the street, she will be approached by somebody trying to lure her into the life of trafficking within 48 hours.
Wow.
So heartbreaking.
That's just unbelievable. And when they get them, they kind of like lure them in and they're nice to them, like they act like they're boyfriends or something, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It definitely starts out as, they're in a relationship. I mean, these traffickers will take 3, 4, 5, 6 months to groom the girls. And yeah, then, they get the girls in, the girls have a place to belong. Usually they've shot them up with heroin by that point. And before they know it, they're turning tricks and they can't get out of the cycle.
And they never get any of the money or anything, right? I think I read a crazy statistic, like they make $250,000 a year off each girl. And like you had mentioned, the stable type thing. So they're making that much money off each girl, but these girls don't get any of it. And a lot of them barely get meals, let alone like a safe place to live and protection.
And, the proof of it is some of the girls in the home will say, oh yeah, I lived on ramen when I was in the life. And I just go, if you were turning that many tricks, the going rate is about, it changes from state to state, but 30 minutes is $100 for a sex act, $150 for an hour. And I just go, yeah, if these traffickers, if these guys are really out for the best for these girls, why are they living on ramen if they're making this kind of money?
Yeah, so, exactly.
An idea.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, Susan, I believe with all my heart that God created women to be an answer. That, women, we were the very first answer to the very first problem. God said it wasn't good that Adam should be alone, and Eve was the answer, right? And even psychology.
We had to eat that apple.
Doctors are confirming that women's brains and wiring were made really extraordinarily, and that our gift for collaboration and our commitment to the wellness of others is going to be a big resource in solving the problems the world faces today. And my message to women is that, you know, the world needs us. The world needs us. Anywhere where there's a problem, there needs to be women involved because of that unique piece that we bring to the table. And I know God made men in a unique and wonderful way too. It's just that we're different. And so without both men and women addressing the problems today, the whole heart of God isn't going to be represented. But the reason I bring that up is because you're doing that. You are an answer for these girls, and you have collaborated with all these other people in ministries to solve a huge problem for these women. And it's just so beautiful to see. But also the women and the girls in your house, like that's their destiny too. And to think that because of your ministry, they can grow up in God and go on and be an answer too. How does that make you feel?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I love everything you said. I totally agree with that. That completely resonates with me. To give you just a quick answer, our first participant that joined the Rose Home, when we first opened our doors, we were like jumping up and down, all the staff, and we saw her pull up in the car. And she graduated Sunday night. We told her, we said, you get to invite anybody that's touched your lives, volunteers, mentors. She had 37 people come to the party. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. She had the district attorney came, the assistant district attorney, the judge, and so it was just a beautiful moment and such a reminder that this girl hasn't just graduated from a program, but this is a celebration of where she's going next, and she has so many people that believe in her. So,
wow,
yeah, that
praise God.
Wow,
Unbelievable.
Woken me up. Woo! Unreal. I love
it. I am so taken away with you and what you do. And I mean, I have to be honest, when you were saying earlier, you know, what do I have to offer? I've never gone through this. I'll be honest, this has really been, you know, I just really feel like God's been speaking to me, because Kim and I attended a conference a couple weeks ago, and it was on the same topic. And that whole time I'm just like, I want to do more, but I was in the same situation. Like I don't have a platform where I have a story to tell about this, and I really don't know what to do. But like you've proven, it doesn't matter. I mean, you just need the love of God in your heart and the willingness to learn and to do stuff. So I want to thank you, first of all, and your husband, because I know that you guys run it together. But I think, can you just talk to people out there that have that burden on their heart to really do something, and tell them, like, what can they do to get interested, or not interested, but get the information? And also, do you have volunteers that can, you know, come to you and offer to volunteer? How does all that work?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously if we have people in the Green Bay area, or if they're willing to drive, yeah, there's opportunities to get involved in the Rose Home to volunteer as a volunteer or as a mentor. Or, you know, we have a lot of people that are like, we want to volunteer in the office, and we want to help with like the Heart Tour. It's called the Heart Tour, and it's a prevention program or curriculum that we go into the inner city and do 6 weeks of prevention. So there's lots of different ways to get involved. So yeah, when I send that link, send that to everybody, and then they can email iHeartWorld back.
Okay.
There's absolutely opportunities for people to volunteer. If they volunteer in the home, the process is a bit extensive, just because we have to make sure we get the right people in there. All of our staff has a mental health background, just because of the trauma of the girls, but there is that opportunity for volunteers. You know, it's an application process and all that, but absolutely. Yeah. So does that answer your question, Heather?
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's amazing. And I'm writing it down, because I'm going to make sure all of you guys watching, and have your friends pass the show on. We record it, and you can catch it on YouTube and iTunes also. But I'll get your link up there, and just keep sharing that. And I mean, get the information out there, because it's so important.
Yeah.
You are doing amazing work.
Thank you. And the other thing is too, something we can do, you know, if we're not by, if we don't live by Green Bay, Wisconsin, or in Mobile, Alabama, is just awareness. We all have a social media platform. So I think just sharing about, articles and the reality, because that's really, in the 9 years, social media has made a big impact on
Wow.
being able to, fight or combat this issue, because there's been people talking about it even on social media.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, Susan, our show is a platform for extraordinary women, and you certainly are. Oh my goodness.
Amen.
I said that when called women say yes to that call, extraordinary things happen, and your life is living proof. We like to ask extraordinary women a couple key questions so that our listeners can continue to grow in their journey of becoming extraordinary as well. Who is an extraordinary woman who had the greatest influence on you?
Oh my goodness. Wow. I would say my mom and my sister.
Aww.
Yeah, for sure. My mom has been that rock when I'm like, Mom, this is crazy. What are we doing? Like, we're going to take down traffickers. Like, what the heck? Like, you have those moments you're like, this is wild. This is scary. Calling her up and, knowing she prays and speaking scripture. And then my big sister, Sunny, she is a trailblazer, man. She is making a dent in this world too. And so, just getting with her, and man, we feed off each other and dream together. And, she calls out those things in me. And so I would say my mom and sister.
That's beautiful.
I'm writing this down. I love what you just said. We dream together.
Me too. I love that too.
Oh, that is so what women do to sharpen each other. I just love that. I'm giving a talk next week on authentic friendship, and I'm going to quote you.
Yes, awesome.
That is beautifully said. I love it. I love that. So, Susan, what is the most wise or best piece of advice you can recall receiving from a woman? And it doesn't have to be related to your ministry, but I just love to share the nuggets of wisdom that women share with each other. They're just such anchors in our storms. Can you think of one?
Yeah, no, this is great. I was looking through, I know you guys gave some promptings last night as well. Goodness, one of my, I would say probably another mentor in my life, because I do believe in having many people that are speaking into you, and then people that you're speaking into, is she had said, Susan, make your quiet time, your time that you get with Jesus, make that priority over everything, because if you're aligned there, everything else will fall into place in your day. And so that's just really stuck with me. I have a room that has a reading chair, and I have all my dreams and goals and prayers up on my wall. And so that's where I go center myself in the mornings. It doesn't happen every morning because I do have a 2-year-old, but that's my safe place. That's where I go when I need to be recentered. And so that really encouraged me at an age of 17 to go, where is my meeting place with the Lord? Wow. And so that impacted me from what my mentor taught me.
I love that.
So awesome. Hey, I got to tell you, my mentor shared with me never to tell a woman to do something daily, because as soon as she misses a day, she'll be riddled with guilt.
Yep.
And I love what you just said. You don't always do it every day because you have a 2-year-old. So we always share with women, whatever you do it on a regular basis, and your life is proof of that too. But I love how you said you chose a meeting place.
I did too.
You're not going to be distracted by, I cannot do my time with the Lord at my desk.
Right, me either.
No, I can't even do it in a messy kitchen, or I'll get up and clean. Like, I have to have no distractions when I'm alone with the Lord. And like, this is my most recent fight. I have my scriptures that are emailed to me on my laptop, and I love to have my laptop there when I'm studying the Word, because I love to Google verses and look up Hebrew meanings and so forth. But then my laptop is right there, and so that my work is also on my laptop. So it takes the most immense amount of self-control for me to just focus on what I'm doing, close out the other tabs, close out my Facebook tab. I don't be needing to hear any notifications, because our time with God is totally our oxygen. We need it like we need air.
Yep. Absolutely. And you're so right. There's times if I miss a few mornings, if I get Magnolia down for a nap, I'm like, yay, I have time to shower and I have 10 minutes to quiet myself. But just trying to make that, make that time, I really think is important at different points throughout your week, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Susan, we'll let you go in just a minute. One last question for you, and thank you so much for your time and your heart. Your message to women today, with all that you've taken away from your journey of helping women, what do you want women everywhere to know?
Absolutely. Be the most obedient you.
Wow, that's good.
Be the most obedient you. And I'll back that up by saying I went through a time, and often still find myself looking at other women on social media, looking at other nonprofits, looking at other ministries, and looking at other moms and going, I'm not enough. Like, look what she's doing, and look where they're going, and look at the funds they're able to raise from their nonprofit, and look at the number of girls they're able to help, and look at that mom. She looks like she has it all together and she can work. And I found myself just kind of like being so fixated on where other women are that I forgot to just keep my eyes fixed on Jesus. And that's something that I feel like the Lord is teaching me in this season. Be the most obedient you in this season. If this season is to be focused on being a mommy, you do that and do it with your whole heart and be the most obedient you, the best you know how to be. When it's to be, when you step into the office and you're taking on the day to combat sex trafficking, be the most obedient leader you know how to be. And so I think just getting our eyes off of how other women look, where they're at in their callings and their walks, and just go, you know what, if right now I am to put my dishes away, clean my house, support my husband, listen to him for 30 minutes, be the most obedient you in that moment.
Wow, that's such good advice. I love that.
I love it. I've never heard it said like that, but I
Me
love
either.
that because it really reinforces the idea that you have a path and a course mapped out for you and you alone.
You alone.
And so as you obey your course and run your race, you will be the best you that you were created to be. And, when horses race, they put those blinders on their eyes so they're not distracted by the other racers. And women, that is just such a lesson to us. We got to be blinded to the other races going on around us because we don't need to be comparing and competing. The Bible says that He will lead us unto glory. Glory awaits each and every one of us on our own path. So I love that message. I love all that you're doing and the heart you're doing it with. You are a total blessing in this world. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it.
Let's share where our viewers can connect, where they can follow you on social media and so forth. Heather, you have all that?
Yeah, well, I'm going to get the link that Susan's sending us, and I'll post that up on our Coffee with Kim webpage. And then also they can go to iheartworld.org and check everything out there. And you have some, they can actually purchase items there, right? Do you still do the handbags?
We do. We have a whole product line that supports all of our programs. So our overhead is covered and our products support our programs.
That's so awesome. And those bags are really nice. I was looking at them last night. I was like, wow, this is like Coach standard right here. I like it.
Thank you.
So they can check that out, and then we'll get that link up where, and I know especially our followers, we have the best followers in the world, so I know that they're really going to want to reach out and help. And Kim and I are here to help too. If you need us to do anything, just let us know. We so believe in what you're doing, and your heart is huge. And I just know that you're going to be so blessed with everything you're doing. But more importantly, the love that you're giving these women, like they need that so bad. And I don't know, I just want to give you a big hug.
I know.
Say thank you again. This is the best. I just really feel like this was a show that God put in the works, I guess almost 12 months ago. And once I heard you speak, I'm like, we have to know more. We have to know more. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Susan. And I'm sure our viewers can find your Facebook page and iHeartWorld page on Facebook. And are you on Instagram also?
Yep.
Okay. So go and follow Susan and iHeartWorld on Facebook and Instagram. And Susan, when you are in the Milwaukee area,
Yes.
a treat for coffee. So I would love to sit down with you in person and talk about what we can do to help women together.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
God bless you, my dear, and we'll keep in touch. And best to you. If you need anything, reach out to us. The Few Women are incredible. I wanted to talk to them about a clothing drive. You and I had talked about that.
Yep.
So we'll put together some clothing for you and for the ladies, and we'll see what else we can do in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. God bless you. And thank you all to our Coffee with Kim viewers and listeners. Don't forget to be extraordinary.
And tell your story. Have a great day.